Hi, you're listening to the Childfree Wealth Podcast. We're your hosts, Bri and Dr. J, certified financial planner. Here we discuss life and finances as it relates to being child-free. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please consult your advisor before implementing any ideas heard on this podcast.
I have to add a disclaimer. Childfree Wealth is a sponsor of International Childfree Day, Childfree Media, Childfree Convention, all the fun stuff. So do with that as you will. So all of you Childfree Wealth listeners, today, August 1st, is International Childfree Day. If you did not know that exists, that's okay. A lot of people don't. You also probably don't know that today is the 50th anniversary of International Childfree Day. I didn't know that until I found that out later. We're going to get into it a little later, but we're actually sponsoring a billboard in Times Square to celebrate what it means to be child-free. So I thought I would bring on the Keepers of the Flame is what I'm going to call them. No,
that's one of my favorite song titles, actually, from, I don't remember who sings it, but okay, that's weird.
Yep. So the Keepers of the Flame for the International Childfree Day. My good friends, Cody and LeNora. Say hi, Cody and LeNora.
Hi,
Hello.
Cody and LeNora.
So I'll do their intro because they will be too shy to do it. They are also the team behind Childfree Media, Childfree Convention, Childfree something or another, lots of Childfree things. I don't know what, like a whole bunch. And if it sounds like the three of us are just having fun here, that's because we do. Like regularly we meet and talk and have fun and get to complain about everything in the world. LeNora is one of my favorites because what I do is when I'm in an article and the comment section gets nasty, I send LeNora after them. You know, it's just fun. And Cody and I have been doing stuff on the finance forever, so we go way back. So, all right, you two are now the Keepers of the Flame. I'm going to go with that. I'm just going to decide you're now the team behind whatever you want to call it. International Childfree Day. So what is International Childfree Day, and why are you two in charge of it? Well, I know you're not in charge of it, but like, what's the deal?
It's now a big Olympic sport. We're now going to have a parade with like the torch because you've now called us. So now all of a sudden, everything I had planned to advertise or to social media strategize for International Childfree Day is completely changed just in the last 5 seconds. So thank you. Cody, do you want to answer the...
For those who don't know that, before I was trying to figure out social media, LeNora was trying to teach me, and I'm useless. So that's why Bri does all our social media right now. So if I can give her an idea for social media, like I just won the day. I'm like done.
Yeah, I'm impressed. Thank you. All right, Cody, do you want to give the real answer?
So the brief history of International Childfree Day. Back in August of 1973, an organization called the National Organization of Non-Parents started basically a day for non-parents, people who do not have children. And in New York, they had a parade of two individuals. They crowned a king and a queen, and they paraded them down the street. And they declared that August 1st would be Child-Free Day. And so that organization carried on with recognizing child-free people, mostly in the United States, and trying to get recognition that having children was an option, becoming a parent was an option. And they were around until about 1982, I think it was. And everything kind of went dormant from there. And Laura Carroll, who is a child-free author, you may have read one of her many books, kind of picked up the mantle from there. She, in her research, found out about International Childfree Day, and also having already known about it through her resources and knowing the people that were involved in it. And so she started what now we know as International Childfree Day. She kept it on August 1st, the original date, but she gave it a new name, International Childfree Day. She started up all the social media that was going at the time for it. And she carried that for about 10 years, actually for 10 years. And so this year, I think she was looking for maybe a new leadership person or organization to kind of run things behind the scenes. And that is where LeNora and I threw our names in the hat with Childfree Media, and fortunate enough to be selected to kind of pick it up and run it into the next chapter of International Childfree Day. So here we are.
So wait, here's the important question.
Yeah.
Does that mean I can get crowned as King of International Childfree Day in New York?
I mean,
no.
Maybe.
Well, no, it's where it started. You had a king and a queen. One of you said maybe. One of you said no. I mean,
Look, there's
if you're the keeper of the flame, can't I be the king of Child-Free Day for one day?
You can be whatever you want, Jay, whenever you want. Yeah. That's the only answer I'll give you. It's obviously gone through a couple different iterations. That was the original day. And, just to clarify, International Childfree Day under that name has not been around for 50 years. This is where a bit of clarity is needed. The 50-year celebration is on that first day, that first recognition event, which did happen to be a parade and happened to crown a king and queen. That is not a tradition that we're at present carrying. Laura had in the last 10 years, like I said, you can be whatever you want, whenever you want.
I'm on a social media saying International Childfree Day crowns Dr. J as the king. No.
We are not granting that at this time. To your point, though, Laura had, in the 10-year span that she had resurrected International and resurrected the day and renamed it International Childfree Day. She did have awards. It was initially Childfree Woman and Childfree Man of the Year, changed to Childfree Person and Childfree Group of the Year. So that has been the tradition under her care. And this year we're not using that now. So we're doing something new, and we're only 4 months into this, so this is our first one. So it's a grand adventure unfolding.
Yeah, we were just handed the reins back on March 1st. So.
Yes. So
it's now June.
Exactly. So not to stomp on your excitement, but like I said, you can crown yourself whatever you want. But we are not going to hand you that title from our end at this point.
I mean, you got to ask. I mean,
Well, and you did it, and that's the answer.
Yeah, and by the way, I think the hard part of this is, I was out talking to some press and talking to people about this, and they're like, there is an International Childfree Day?
We hear that all the time.
Yeah.
I only discovered it in 2018. I had no idea.
I think,
and that's the fun part and the challenging part, is because a lot of work has been done to give it gravitas, to even make this into existence, right? And Laura has done a phenomenal job just in every aspect of bringing pronatalism and child-free awareness and books and just everything that she's done for decades. And still we're in this challenge of like, people don't know.
It exists. We're in the challenge that exists.
Why we're talking about it, why it's important. Actually, Uber Facts on Twitter. It's a Twitter account that promotes, they say, useless facts. They proclaimed International Childfree Day was a useless day, a useless fact. I have to find the tweet because we're gonna kick off social media campaigns using that. But but that's the reality. That's the reaction. So it's a lifelong challenge to bring awareness to this. I'm gonna say lifelong because it feels like it's gonna be that long. But, it's also fun, like, what can we do, not just us, but with child-free people around the world?
Yeah.
Can add on to what has already been done, but blow it up even more in a good way.
Yeah. And the reason it might have made Uber Facts as a quote-unquote useless day is because some people might wonder, why do you even need a day? Like, why celebrate not having kids? There's nothing special with that, to not have kids. And, I mean, in some degrees, I can see where they're right. But in other areas they're not, because as far as a demographic in society, we're not really seen or heard at all or respected in a lot of circles. So that's what we're wanting to do with International Childfree Day, is to help continue to raise that awareness so people do find it. And I mean, maybe you get a happy International Childfree Day from a cousin or an uncle or an aunt, or you receive one. I mean, who knows? Like, there's tons of fun things that we can come up with along the way, but just getting the recognition out there that it is a day that exists and that being child-free is a valid lifestyle. There's no reason to feel that you should follow, as you say, the life script, and to continue on a path that you're told to follow. There's plenty of ways that you can live your life and enjoy it, and being child-free is definitely one of them.
So I just decided we will know when International Childfree Day is real when we can go into CVS and get a Hallmark card that says Happy Childfree Day. I mean, they have one for happy every other day. Like, I mean, seriously.
Real.
Well,
Okay.
we've got to come up with like the wristbands and the colors and like the frame that goes around your Facebook picture or whatever social media you're using. Yeah, we have to.
Well, I mean, okay, you're going to put me on a whole new tangent now because I'm thinking there's got to be people. I know there are people at Meta who are child free. There's got to be people at Hallmark who are in the decision making around the decision makers who are child free. But do they feel comfortable proposing that idea?
That's
I mean, this is what we need to get to because I know you say that in jest, but in reality, that's actually what is necessary, right? So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. And I do a lot of press, and I was out talking to people like, so International Child Free Day is coming up. We should talk about finance. We should talk about this and the other. And they're like, a what? And I'm like, International Child Free Day, August 1st. And they're like, I'm child free. I'm like, good. You know, yes, they exist. And they're like, huh. Well, that's interesting. And I think we might just be too early. I don't know. 50 years in and we're early adopters, I guess.
We got to start somewhere.
I think we're hitting it the right time. Like that's the thing. Like it is like 50 years to get to this point, but with the ability to reach people through social media, like you don't. Back in the 80s, what would you have like a letter writing campaign? Like you would hope. Well, I mean, really, that's what Non did. They had like radio campaigns and pamphlets. Like that's, maybe a TV spot. So they would try that, but now everyone's got a camera and a microphone at their disposal, and you can reach thousands of people just by hitting a button. So but
we need more people to do it. But
that's the thing.
Not everyone wants to do it. And that's the problem. That's where
right? we're in the golden age of child freeness for technology. Like back in the 60s, 70s, like the trailblazers, like that's a whole different era of child freeness. But now the fact that we can get together, form groups, meet people, make connections, have podcasts and reach out to thousands, millions of people. It's a format they didn't have at their disposal. And so we're like at the golden age of starting what child free will become. And as I always, where the crown of thorns of is what is child free, the definition of child free, and knowing that there's a difference between being child free and childless. And that's really to me, the first issue to deal with regular media, to use the right term for the right demographic of people. So hopefully that's one thing people will look at. They go to International Child Free Day, they'll see kind of what it's about. And it's for people who have made the choice to not have children, and they have, accepted, if you want to choose that term, that lifestyle, and they're happy with it. That's what they're going to do. And that's the big difference. I believe there's a childless week. I think they have a week.
There is.
The month prior is in June, I think, isn't it? No. I
think it's September, actually.
September. Yeah, they're promoting some events and
stuff.
Yeah,
I know it's like right off of what we do. And that's good for them. We need two different events to tell what each community is about.
No, and maybe I'll argue with you on this. I don't know if it is, but there are some people that start off in the childless, not by choice, and end up in the child-free communities. Whatever that is. I think for the childless communities, once you grieve that life and you've chosen now a new life, some people stay with childless terms, child-free. I let people pick their own terms. Now, with the press, I will fight on terms, and I say it's one word, no spaces, but I can't win those battles. Like, even my company name has one word, and the other day it was a Fortune article, and it was 2 words. I'm like, it's a direct quote of the company name. Shouldn't change it. No. But
I appreciate your efforts.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't want to change any of my signs, all my branding. I'd have to change
a lot of marketing.
Believe me, we feel your pain. We have child-free everything, and it's like, okay, do we have to change this? I was going to ask you though, like, what do they ever follow up? Like when they say, oh, there's a day, and you go, yeah. Like, do they ask more questions, or like, what's the conversation, or does it just kind of die out?
I've had some great engagement, and I think the hard part is they have to then sell it to their editors and others that this is an interesting story. Yeah. But like, you go on the news now and like there's like the International Sleep Month or something like that. There's random weeks and months for everything.
International Tuba Day.
Right. There are these days and I'm going, cool. So the number I use is somewhere between 20-25% of the U.S. is child free. A big chunk of the U.S., we should talk about it. Yeah. And it's been interesting. I've seen more and more people starting to go, okay, what does that mean? Where do we go? I think the other interesting thing to me, and let's be real, the three of us are pretty open that we're in the child-free community. But I think there are others that are, I still get people that are like, shh, I'm child-free. It's like in this hushed tone.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they haven't come out as child-free. And they don't want to publicly say it. And I mean, have you seen this too? Or, I mean, one of my hopes for International Child-Free Day is it's kind of like the National Coming Out Day for LGBT. We can all come out and say, hey, we're child-free today.
Well, that's the idea. Where I see it is in professional settings, like on LinkedIn. Like I run a small group for child-free professionals, and it's like hidden because people don't necessarily even want to show it up on their profile because nobody know what it means. And actually, there is some of the speakers for the upcoming Childfree Convention I've met through LinkedIn, and one of them requested for me not to promote any graphics where she's on them because she wants to kind of control it, and I said that's fine. Anything that's with your face on, I won't post. That's totally fine. And she's gonna do something for her network with a little more explanation instead of just with the blanket stuff that we do. So and that's just on LinkedIn. So it's really interesting. Like because she happens to work with families. So I mean, like I said, child-free people are in every single industry, but nobody talks about it. I mean, it's this huge onion to unwrap, to peel, because there's so much happening, but ultimately people are not comfortable to say anything. So it's curious and sad and annoying and challenging and all the good stuff because it gives us something to do with the conversation. But we're dealing with that.
Yeah, my wife and I just took a trip to DC, and I had on a Childfree hat. It's a Childfree on a similar font to what I'm wearing on the video here. And the hostess, after I gave her my name, she goes, "I like your hat." I said, "Are you child-free?" She goes, "Yeah." And like we fist bumped and whatever. I mean, maybe that got me moved up in the queue. I don't know. But that was like a really cool interaction, which only child-free people kind of get. Like when they see it's like, yeah, I'm child-free. Like just saying that and knowing what that means. That's why I feel like the words are important to know the difference. Like you're saying, Dr. J, versus childless. When someone says that they're child-free and using that term, they're kind of making a definitive stance of where they are in their life and what they see going forward.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I've had my own struggles with it in the financial world. I did a podcast recently, and they were talking about another financial planner that wanted to work with the child-free community. And he had kind of put a website out, and he had kids himself. And next thing you know, his whole community was talking about how he hates kids and, how he's,
wow.
And he stopped doing it because of the negative exposure. And I was like, yep, I hear that. I mean, literally. I mean, let's be real on that. Doesn't mean I'm going to stop supporting the community or, sharing it. It's baggage. And I'm in the deep South. I'm in Mississippi right now. So, it's a special world. And you got to be careful. I mean, I actually, the other day, I was at my boat. My boat's name is Think, 2 Healthy Incomes, No Kids. But I don't tell anyone that. But I had done some work. I was helping a neighbor, and I was all sweaty. And I was running out of shirts. And the last shirt I had was a child-free shirt. It's actually Chelsea Handler's tour shirt. And I'm looking around the marina. I'm like, if I wear this, I might get my ass kicked. Like, just kind of like, the community, you got to be aware of where you're at.
Be brave, Dr. J. Be brave.
But what's funny to that though? I'm in Canada and nobody cares. So it's like you still like there are a lot of child-free people. There are some that I've met in the city and a lot in the province. I'm in Alberta, and I get DMs from people who follow me or listen to the podcast or whatever. And so there are out there, and it's not that there isn't pressure because we do still have that stigma, but at the same time, Canada's like, oh, okay, you don't have kids, cool. They'll silently judge you, but it's not as intense as the US, but there's still a need for conversation. But like I've been recently just contacting women's groups and organizations in my city just to see if there's anybody interested in the conversation. And organizers are like, this is really cool you're talking about it. We have no idea if our community needs to talk about this. Because it's a silent thing, and people that I have spoken with who live here, and very much myself, I never thought about talking about it ever until just one day it just burst out of me, and I had no choice. But so it's weird because it's very kind of like whatever, but it's still important. But people don't realize people are talking about it, and Canada's just kind of like whatever. Let's go along, but it's still part of the problem. So it's the opposite of the US. Like no one's saying anything. We're a pro-choice country, and people are kind of not suffering in silence, but just unaware that we can talk about it and why it's important. Right? So it's why did we even get into this? Because I'm like, what are we doing? It's valid, it's important, but sometimes it's just aggravating because you're like, hello, this is actually a really important conversation to have.
Well, and LeNora and I, we joke. It's like, look, we'll shut down everything that we're doing, every child-free aspect of everything. The day comes when you can like have a conversation and you tell someone you're child-free, and you're like, oh, okay. Like the day that happens, like we'll shut everything down. Like we're done.
Totally.
Mission accomplished.
Totally.
Like we.
There are other things I can do in my life. I know that. So
but we love what we're doing, but it's like that's the whole point, is just to kind of remove the stigmas and the stereotypes with being child-free. It's like, child-free people aren't just evil people out there, trying to stop people from having kids or to, wishing ill on children or parents. Or child-free people, for the most part, at their core, don't really care if someone is going to have a child or not themselves. That's their decision. Like it's choice. Like we've chosen not to. If you choose to, then that's go for it. That's on you.
Well, so for just to kind of pull back the screen for a second and show you guys behind the scenes, when we had come up with this idea of sponsoring a billboard in Times Square celebrating Childfree, I reached out to LeNora and Cody and said, I got this crazy idea. Now, by the way, they're used to this because I randomly send them messages. I got this crazy idea.
Love crazy
pretty
ideas.
Frequently. I'm just saying that's.
Mm-hmm. I'm nodding for those that can't see this. Yes.
But this was one kind of like that had some legs. Like, let's play with this. And we're recording this right now. It's in June, and it's going to air on Childfree Day. So I don't even know how that's going to work out. But we were talking about designs and messages. And one of the things we said was, okay, let's celebrate what it's like to be child-free, and let's ask people to share what it's like. We went on social media, posted it, Childfree Media put it on the newsletters, all that. I'll be honest, we only got 2 people that responded. And part of the response we heard was, I'm not sure I want to be up in lights celebrating what's like to be child-free. I don't blame them.
Yeah.
Okay, in the end, we ended up with 3 people that I call them normal people, like not child-free influencers, and 2 child-free influencers on the billboard. You go to our Instagram, you can see what they are. But I don't blame them for saying, I didn't want to be up in Times Square. But I didn't really think of that. Like, I didn't think that. I thought we'd get hundreds of responses and like people being interested. Okay. You thought we'd get that low of response?
I knew it was a possibility just because I'm always talking to people about content creating, and that's the reason why they don't do it, is because they don't want their name attached. So it's not because, like, that's the thing. It's not because of a lack of support. It's just people are scared, and there are some of us who are like, you know what, we've gotten over that. We'll put our faces and our names out, and it doesn't matter. And that's, I mean, honestly though, it's really good for you to share that, because people don't understand why we need this conversation, because they don't realize how many people are too afraid to speak up about it. Just the fact that they've chosen. I think parents or otherwise, if humanity knew how afraid people really are to be honest about the choices they want to make in life, God, that would free so many people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a whole, it's not just about celebrating. It's like just how people feel. Like that's a huge thing. I mean, before we started recording, we're talking about like the inner turmoil of turning 40, but there, people are I don't think we've even really scratched the surface how this choice, whether or not like to have kids or not, truly affects people. And I think this is why we're a bit ahead of our time. And even all the work that has been done leading up to that is that we haven't touched what's really, really going on, how people truly feel about like the pain or the pressure or whatever, or even the guilt after they've made the choice. Like because we're approaching it from a celebratory view, which is good. It's important, but there's so much underneath. And that evolves as you go from 20 to 40 to beyond, right? So it's just like, this is just the beginning. This is what we're doing. All of us is just able to like open the door to have the conversation. And I think what's going to happen as as some of us are more vocal and putting more things out there and putting up billboards and celebrating and say it's okay to show your pride for this choice, it's totally fine. We have to remember that the bulk of people are quietly struggling and have no idea how to say so. They're just glomming on to those of us who are content creators because they go, oh, well, at least there's someone else that's like me. But they haven't really been able to dive deep into how they're feeling. I'm going really deep with this conversation, but quite honestly, this is what's coming up. And some of the, content we get proposed to make, it's like super deep, but people are trying to figure out how to express their pain so then they can celebrate. And that takes time. It takes an environment, and there hasn't, up till recently, there haven't been a lot of places where people can really express how they feel surrounding this choice. But and if humanity saw that, I think that would really get us more support.
Yeah, and recognizing that there are different paths that lead to being in a child-free lifestyle. Some people have known since they were handed their first, doll to play with. It's like, no, don't want kids. There's people like me who went, were told, go to school, get a job, get married, have kids. And like in your 20s, you're like, well, I'm supposed to get married and have kids. And then you just kind of don't. And then you realize that it's an option to not have kids. When I met my wife, when we were dating, that was, of course, a conversation that came up. And it's like, well, how do you feel about having kids? It's like, And seeing that in each other's reaction, we're like, oh, we don't have to do this. Like that's an amazing thing. So yeah, there's different avenues that lead to being child free. And like LeNora's saying, like the billboard that you're going to put out in Times Square, it literally might be the first time someone sees that word like to them. And then they learn more about the child free community and a child free day, whatever it's going to be. But that's their first taste of it. Like, the first time I heard somebody audibly speaking about being child free, it was a morning talk show host. It's a guy, and he was Terry James with Lex and Terry. I think they're still on the air. But he's child free with his wife, and he openly speaks about it on the air to like millions of people. And like the other guys that are on the morning show with him, they didn't give him any flack. They're like, yeah, like kind of get it, whatever, like because they know him. And that kind of gets the wheels turning. The more you talk about something in your own life, the more you vocalize it, it becomes more real, and you'll start to find those allies along the way. Like some people, they might look at you and say, oh, you're missing out on this, or you'll never understand, or you'll never reach your full potential as a human on earth, or whatever it's going to be. But those people aside, there are probably more people like in your own network that are going to be supportive of what you're doing, because they'll kind of get it. They know you. That's the kicker, is we're so worried about what a stranger is going to think of us. And there are allies within your own network that may be there that can help support you along the way. Like, how do you find other child-free friends? Well, if your friends that have kids know that you're child-free and don't want to have kids, they're going to end up finding somebody else along the way. Say, hey, you should meet Cody. You should meet Dr. J. You should meet LeNora. Like, there you go.
Yeah, and I think you all don't have to be out like we are. I mean, and I use that phrasing. I mean, so in the financial planning world, everybody kind of has a niche. They serve a certain person, serve dentists. I go into groups and like, oh yeah, you're the child-free guy. And I'm like, obviously it's made an impact because you know who I am. Yeah. But like, okay, fine. Yeah, I stick out more than the person that's serving, Shell employees or whatever it is. But that's okay. It's great for business, and it's because it's an underserved population. I think, but that comes with baggage. It really does. I mean, I literally had this moment where I'm like, I'm not sure I can wear this shirt safely. Yeah. And I'm not a small dude, and I'm not worried about much, but it's like, I'll have to take a photo of the parking lot, and you will understand by the flags waving all throughout the place that it is just not safe. And that might be an exaggeration, but not by a lot. So
what? And that's just lack of knowing. Yeah, it's just lack of knowing what the term even means. Like to have child free on a shirt and walk around, or a hat or whatever. People who know what it means, they're going to key into immediately. Other people might be like, oh, well, that must be a political statement or a religious statement. And it's not. It's a lifestyle
Someone said, oh, that's your beliefs. I'm like, no, it's not my belief. This is...
Yeah. It's who I am.
Yeah, I mean, it's a choice I've made. It's not my belief at all, actually. But that's the thing. They didn't say it in an unsupportive way. That was just how it was phrased to me, and I thought, okay, well, that's weird. Like this is a lifestyle choice where, like, that's the thing. this conversation isn't new, but people don't understand it. People don't understand it. And so, even bring it back to, the future of International Childfree Day, it's like, we just need we're still at the awareness level, to be honest. Like there's still so much groundwork to be done everywhere. But it's up to, it's a collective effort, really, because people need to feel okay to share their stories on a variety of platforms. And there's some of us that have to make those platforms so people feel comfortable to share. And then it spreads, but like everything else that's good, it takes time and consistency, right? So, and that's not easy, especially when on this topic, as we all know, it's like, oh my goodness.
Well, and my hope is to each Childfree Day to do something crazy. I just got to top it each time. And, LeNora and Cody would be like, what are you doing now?
You know what? Now, for some reason, a yacht came into my mind just now.
I was thinking skywriting
next year.
I mean, something,
okay.
Who knows what, but I'm just doing that because it's fun. And because I think we need to do some kind of silly, outrageous things. I mean, I truly believe, and we'll see after this, somebody's going to pay for the billboard and get all upset about it because it says, being child-free means you have time, money, and freedom to do what you enjoy. And here's how people celebrate child-free. Like, it's all positive about being child-free. It says nothing about anybody else. I'm just telling you, it says nothing about anybody else. But somebody's going to post that, get all mad, blah, 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 blah. And nothing I can do about it. And I'm okay with it. I'm ready for it. I mean, I swear, I have more people praying for my soul than I'd ever want to count. But I guess I'm good. Because like every time I'm in an article, they're praying for my child-free or childless soul, depending on what I call it.
Well, geez, you're the person to be around there because you've basically saved the entire community. But I think to their point though, if we can get, or if somehow convey, like, anyone that's going to be a child-free content creator, even stand up, you have to have tough skin. Like you got to toughen up a bit, it's not a bad skill to have to navigate life in general anyway, to be honest. So I think, I'm hopeful that as time goes on, more people see, okay, well, this is how they've handled that reaction. This is how they've handled the internet. This is how they've handled their family. And then also, too, by sharing stories, maybe family members going, oh, that's how my reaction is perceived. Because I think a lot of times people don't know but what's going to happen to you? They're trying to say it out of the goodness of their heart, but they don't realize how it comes across. Like, humanity has a long way to go in general, regardless of the topic we're talking about. But I think just a little more compassion on all aspects of the conversation, whether you have kids or not, because there are a lot of angry child-free people who are angry towards parents and kids, and there's reasons for that, right? So it's, we're all kind of like trying to figure out how to convey our child-free message and stand up for our choice. And sometimes it comes out angry, and sometimes it comes out frustrated and sad and happy and over the top, whatever, right? We're just trying to navigate, and there's no right or wrong way. And we can't control how people react. So it's still very like, I'm going to say at the kindergarten stage, because we're all still trying to figure out how to navigate this. And, there's a ton of opportunity. But you do need to, people need to toughen up a bit and be consistent with it and put yourself out there to a degree to help get the word out and create whatever change is necessary.
And even if it's not being a content creator, you can always be a content creator commenter. Like, just be in the comments, like, give your thoughts down there as well. I mean, trust me, there'll be plenty of trolls going and attacking whatever they said in the post. So just, you can always give your thoughts there as well. One thing that I think is interesting is that whenever being child-free is put in like the negative light, there's always a bright side to that as well that's not being looked at. Like for parents, like child-free people, like we're kind of your biggest ally as well, because we get it. Like, of course, parents are like, oh, you have no idea what it's like. It's like, well, no, I don't necessarily know, but I do understand, because I've chosen to not go down that path. Like I see everything that parents put out there into the world, the good and the bad. And it's like, you know what? Just not going to be for me. And I understand it. So for a parent who is going through struggles, they may not feel comfortable talking to another parent because they're going to be judged as being a bad mom or dad or whatever, or step parent. But a child-free friend could be a friendly ear, because it's like, yeah, I hear you. That sounds tough. Like, I can't give you advice on what to do, but I can be an ear and listen to your situation.
Fair. And if you do want to get involved, we have a hashtag Celebrate Childfree. You can actually post that today on Childfree Day and celebrate what it is. If you don't feel comfortable with it, cool. But I'm going to ask Cody and LeNora, how do you celebrate being child-free? And we'll let Cody go first.
Oh my goodness. I love my life. I love living life. I'm happy to kind of tell people about, being child-free, as why I'm here right now, and LeNora as well. But just letting people know that it's not scary to just verbalize that you're child-free. So that's how I find happiness in just sharing with others. That's how I celebrate it.
And you, LeNora?
That's a really, really good question. Let me think.
That's why I went to Cody first. Figured I'd buy some time.
I wouldn't necessarily say I celebrate it, but that I think my advocacy work is how I celebrate it, because to me it's always been a natural thing. I was 22 and I realized I had the choice, and I was just like, I just felt so relieved. So then I just got to live my life, right? Never thought about, I didn't know the term. I never thought about celebrating. It was just like an internal peace. and that's really nice to have, like, on that area of my life, constant internal peace. You just celebrate it by just being grateful for that. But then becoming an advocate, like an outspoken one and public about it, that I think I will say is how I is how I celebrate. And that even doesn't quite feel like the right term, but I would say that's how I would celebrate it, because since I have become vocal about it, there are tons of elements of my life that have opened up that I never would have experienced, like the friendships that I've made, the opportunities, just learning how to collaborate, like that was never in my wheelhouse, even as a musician. It's taught me different skills. I mean, it's pushed me beyond my comfort zone in so many ways, but I like who I've become because of it. So that I will celebrate, like that, I guess, is a celebration. That is a celebration, because who I've become since being public, I've learned to embrace other elements of my life that have nothing to do with being child-free. And that is something that I add to my advocacy work. It's like you find a topic you're comfortable about, and then it kind of talking about and advocate somehow, and that kind of opens the doors for you to be parts of other conversations that you may have been scared to before. So all of that is a celebration, and that stems from because I chose not to have kids. Like, I had no idea any of that was coming in my life. Like, I didn't know I would be talking about it. So I am really excited as to what's coming up, because this is just the beginning of everything. And this is always like the hardest part, even though it's been 5 years. Like, this is the hard part, because you're like, what do we have to show for? But things are evolving, so that's a celebration. And then, in years to come, I will really celebrate, maybe more intentionally. I think.
Well, and we're all kind of struggling through it, trying to figure out the right answer. I mean, I guess I get to cheat and say I celebrate child-free by buying a billboard in Times Square.
It's a start. Yeah.
But I guess that's my answer. I think no, I can't. I'm thinking, like, what are we gonna do next year? We got a lot of years ahead of us. I think the hard part is right now is a rough time in the U.S. in some areas. Let's just be real on that. It's a hard time for some people in child-free, hard time reproductive rights. We got to support each other. We know that. We will. That's all. And support everybody where they're at. I think that's a balancing act. But at least talking about International Childfree Day is a way to kind of like get the conversation started. I can tell my mom, today's International Childfree Day. She's like, I have no clue what that is. That's okay. I can just say it's there. And she go, oh, that's nice. Yeah. But that's okay. So where can they follow International Childfree Day, Childfree Media, any of you? Like, where do we get more information?
LeNora, that's all you.
Okay, so how much time you got? InternationalChildfreeDay.com. That is the best place to start when it comes to the actual day. We have developed a really, really nice website. Thank you, Cody. And we can follow International Childfree Day on Twitter at Childfree Day, and International Childfree Day on Facebook. So that's specifically for ICD, International Childfree Day. Childfree Media, you can go to childfreemedia.com. We are also on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Childfree Media.
And Childfree Media, for those that aren't following, has a little bit of everything. I mean, let's be real on this.
We
They have
do.
the convention and the podcast and the blogs and the posts and all different Childfree content. So if you're ever going like, I want to see something from Childfree folks, there is something for everybody there.
You can even find this podcast in the newsletter. So just saying, it's just, yes.
We got to sell it everywhere. All right. Thank you.
That's all for this week's episode of Childfree Wealth Podcast. Be sure to follow Childfree Wealth on social media, email us at podcast@childfreewealth.com, or visit our website, www.childfreewealth.com.